Lilia with the Hecarim gone is actually a lot more reliable of a blind pick. Now the question is, come on, Crook, are you gonna pull out the cane?
Is today the day?
No, because the problem with
everything
Kane,
on the line.
the problem with Kane, I think, is that you won't have as much of an early game impact, so it's probably going to be like Gnar, Udyr.
Yeah.
Which would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and Dread was one of those Lilias where we were just like, okay, now we need to see more Lilia because we saw his play and we realized what was possible. Goes Zhonya's first a lot, sets up really crazy team fights as Orianna priority.
And this is, okay, so this is a completely different approach to the draft here by Liiv Sandbox. What they're doing here is they're not saving the counter pick, they're just blind picking both of their solo laners. And what they're saying to me with this is, listen, it doesn't matter what Afreeca do, we are going to draft for a teamfight comp that can always win the game. We know what Afreeca's historic weaknesses are, and we are going to try and capitalize on that as best as we can, because this is such a big pivot, right? We don't see early junglers, we don't see an early lock-in for an AD carry, which traditionally has happened a lot. The downside of that, though, with showing this early is that you will be going into a matchup that's not very fun for the Gnar and the Jace. We've seen Keen win these.
We have.
Oh boy.
Olaf comes in. So you immediately see what's kind of going on here. We've seen a lot of Orianna Olaf together. And Olaf, again, another one of these picks that you can kind of just fast clear the jungle, try to secure some objectives very early on in the game, especially those dragons. And maybe Afreeca will get more Rift Heralds, as they love. But let's see what the bans do come out here now as well, because both junglers picked. We're going to see mid laner banned away from Fly.
Unironically, just throw Fly on the mid lane Sion. I think if you don't pick a tank here, as Afreeca, I'm going to be so hesitant to like be positive about your chances to win the game, because again, this is a team where we've seen that early game will be good. Every single time they show that they are able to find the early game leads. It's just if you don't have a stable team comp, I don't have faith in this team at this point in time to actually find the execution of these harder team comps, to respect the hard engage that's going to come out from your opponent, to respect the inevitable Gnar flank into Orianna play.
Oh, speaking of which,
okay,
look at that read from Liiv Sandbox.
I feel vindicated.
Look at
Thank
that.
you, Liiv Sandbox.
And you know this is not a ban to the top lane, nor the support, right? Very obviously a ban away from Fly. And take a look at that as well, the Ezreal taken away from Prince. So some respect shown to that pick as well.
This is, honestly, I wouldn't mind just locking in the Tristana. Because I think if you're looking Kai'Sa here, even though Prince has looked comfortable on it, the enemy looks in Tristana Rel. That makes you very, very sad. You don't want to play into that. And hopefully, oh guys. I said hopefully they're not going to do that. But they do. And this is a sacrifice that Prince is making, right? Because he knows what's going to happen. Because you know at this point in the game what happens if you lock in the Kai'Sa. This should not come as a surprise, and I would be shocked if Afreeca don't lock in the Tristana here. And that means that Liiv Sandbox places so much value on a counter pick for effort here. But then I look at his pool, it's not actually that much still available. And something that in a vacuum does really well against the Rel would be something like the Jenna, which we've actually seen, but that doesn't really mesh very well. The Leona is still available, but I feel like you didn't have to really save this Leona or this Nautilus, whichever of the two it's going to end up being, till the very end. I feel like you could have picked this up a little bit earlier. Does fit very well either of these with the Liiv Sandbox team comp and what they want to do. And this is a rough one from either side, Valdez. I'm not entirely sure what we're going to see here.
There is a ridiculous amount of damage in the Afreeca comp, especially as the game comes along, but even in the earlier stages as well. Everybody can shell it out, except Rel, of course. But, you know, those late game team fights for Liiv Sandbox, I feel like especially if you get ahead, you've got Leona, who's great from ahead, the Olaf is feeling good. Your Wombo combo and team fights can be pretty crazy if you can lock down the back line and some of those squishy poke champions on the side of Afreeca.
This game is going to be so volatile. Like, it's actually insane. Because if Jace or Tristana gets a lead, then it's real bad news. Victor is self-explanatory. Then on the other end, I feel like the Liiv Sandbox comp will always have that possibility of a comeback. And I like drafting like that into Afreeca Freecs because I feel like sometimes they're their own worst enemy, right? Like we can see this team pick up an early game lead. I would not be surprised if Keen and Dread find a kill or two in the early game already. If they pick up the first Drake, maybe the second one. But then it comes to actually transitioning. And that is a position where no matter what the situation is, as long as you don't lose horribly, as Liiv Sandbox, you can find a team fight, right? Like, because this is just, you dive in, there's no counterplay. Anyone on the side of Afreeca Freecs gets caught, like, you blow them up, right? There's just too much damage, too much AoE, CC. And that's not a position I really love, but at the same time, there's a lot of prio available in the top and the bot lane here for Afreeca. And Dread, in the early game, he can make his magic work.
Well, it's like what we like to see from this player as well. Just hopping around the rift on Lilia.
A Predator even. He's ready ready to get down.
A very interesting pick. You talked about getting kills in the early game. This is one way to enhance that potential. Dark Harvest, kind of standard, right? You can get a lot of stacks, you have a lot of burn, and the ability to pick up those stacks is very nice on a champion like that, but going for something a little bit more gank-oriented, of course.
Yeah, I think the value of both Dark Harvest and Phase Rush provide very different things from the consistency that Predator will get you. And I think in terms of secondary initiation, it actually helps a little bit as well, where if Lahans goes in as Dread and you don't have your passive stacks up, you're actually able to go in, get a big Q, and get out a lot more easily than you would otherwise. So, interested to see. I think in terms of actually 1v1 against Croco, though, it's definitely inferior to something like Phase Rush, because now if Croco gets on top of you, Predator defensively is not really it.
No.
Doesn't really.
It is not it.
No, it's not what you want to do. At all. But it's Dread and Keen, right? So like I don't expect them to ever run away. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, full speed ahead. It's gonna be the name of the game. I'm gonna be curious to see how Summit handles this lane, because you're playing against Keen and you blind picked Gnar. You have to know that you're playing against Jace. Or something very similar to Jace.
No, it's like I said, like this is a sacrifice being made by Liiv Sandbox, and whether or not that sacrifice pays off, we don't know yet. But it's 100% like they know exactly what happens when they blind pick. Like the Orianna is not as punishable. You don't expect Fly to like, you know, pick a Lucian and then like an all-in jungler, and then you get like that's not really the playstyle that we often see from Afreeca. But Summit knew what he was signing up for, and it's a different position from usual. I actually thought that, like I said, they were going to go for the R5 counter pick and give him a counter matchup in the top lane. But this is Liiv Sandbox saying, listen, Summit is good enough that he can be in a counter matchup, still be stable, and it gives us a lot more leeway in the rest of the draft. But then I'm like, did you really have to, you know, go for the blind Kai'Sa as well? It feels like on red side, I would much rather see you get more counter picks, and instead what we saw was that Liiv Sandbox kind of countered itself in multiple instances. And in terms of that, the draft wasn't great. However, in terms of what they actually ended up with, I do think that this is a draft that can always win. And against Afreeca, that's a big boon.
Yeah, we do have a 6-game losing streak for Kai'Sa currently. So we'll see how that goes. No boots yet for Dread, but he's still up in the top lane. Flash coming out from Keen. Another flash from Dread. Summit just hops away, and now Croco's here. Neither Dread nor Keen have the flash. Do Liiv Sandbox have the damage, though, is the question. Lots of damage coming out now from Dread as they are poking him down. Another miss on the undertow. And Keen is going to look to combo down Summit. Can't quite do it, but Dread will finish the job. And that is a 2-for-1 in favor of Afreeca at the end of it all.
We told you, everyone, it was going to be played on the top lane. Early all-ins, 2v2s, and we haven't mentioned it yet. Or it's an all-out brawl. And in the end, I don't feel like either team will get a huge lead of it. Obviously, Afreeca is favorable there due to the fact that it's a 2-for-1 trade. But Summit's still very much in the game. Him and Keen both are able to get back to the wave. So while this is a good trade for Afreeca Freecs, it's not as bad as it could have otherwise been. And just a little bit clunky there. And this is one of the downsides of having the Ghost as opposed to the Flash. If you have Flash hit, this is a really easy play. But Croco instead forced to use the Ghost initially just to make sure that Summit stays alive. And then with the nice disengage coming through from Keen, and Dread just sweet spotting those Qs continuously really nicely. You're lucky that someone gets this kill and that minion provides you vision, right? Because if that last auto doesn't come through and it's a 2-for-0, game's looking completely different.
2-for-0 would be insane.
Yeah.
Keen could just then push on in, get a very comfortable back. And, I mean, they're still feeling great. And note now that he has the Lucidity boots built first. And that's going to be lovely. You've got Predator. You picked up so much early gold from that. Dread is just prancing around the Rift with not a care in the world. Level 5. And feeling quite nice here. We'll see if he goes for a return gank. There were a lot of summoners used in the top side, including both of their own flashes, Keen and Dread, but no flash on a mini-Gnar could be potential kill. So you see he is hanging up on the top side here once again. We'll see if he goes for anything.
Croco dying first has the unintended side effect of him having a little bit of a tempo lead, where he's able to clear out a little bit faster than Dread on his top side. Oh, that's back cancel is actually nice. That might provide a little bit more time with possibility for a play towards the Drake, because I'd imagine both junglers would start to kind of gravitate towards that. I don't think they're levitating. There's no
levitate is not the word.
Levitate, is it not?
Gravitate.
Gravitate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gravitate
Thank
towards
you.
that objective.
Sorry, my English is not always as good as I want it to be. I hope you can forgive me. Because the early dragon control in this matchup will provide a lot of pressure going later in the game, and I feel like either team can really use that considering the early game identities of both of these two teams.
Yeah, for sure. As Croco is going for a bit of a run, yeah. Right down the middle there, he's going to get spotted now.
Never mind.
There's actually nothing in the top side of the jungle anyway. And he's got a sweeper. As we do have the flash coming in, he's able to pull Prince into the fight. And now with the flash forward, that is a very easy kill for Bang to pick up. And that is the potential of Tristana Rel, and why the Kai'Sa is not always the best pick.
I agree, but I feel like that was just... I don't know if Bang and Lahans were just waiting there and cheesing in the brush. I don't know if it was a back that was on the ward.
Yeah, we got to see the setup.
Because I feel like, even though I still agree with you, let me make that clear. It's still a situation where I think any AD carry just kind of dies, depending on how he gets found. And this is a really, really good look for Afreeca early game, because Tristana snowballs incredibly well. He can possibly turn this into bot side river control, which is what they have done, and that can open up a dragon at a later point in time. However, Afreeca, they're starting to build the gold lead, and I want to see them keep this up, right? Because honestly, if you're Afreeca, you're going into the game with the mindset of, we need to get the biggest possible gold lead in the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes, so that every play we do just works.
They're standing in the lane.
Yeah, no, that's not excusable. Yeah, yeah. Well, never mind, Prince. There's no, unfortunately, no redeeming qualities there. No cheese.
Oh.
Just disrespecting the flash from the Rel. And the one upside, question mark, is there is no actual objectives getting taken, and now Lahans won't have his flash available for the inevitable Magnet Storm flash. But this is not a fun matchup. And you opted into this, Liiv Sandbox.
Yeah.
You know, you've
Thing.
done this yourself.
If you were going to opt into this, then you had to play a little bit more safely, as we kind of missed in that trade. But good on Bang and Lahans to make it happen. Getting the kill down for themselves, and Lily is up on the top side. So we haven't even seen any priority on these Drakes from either side. I mean, Croco not really necessarily having the option to, but Dread is up in the top side again. He wants to put on focus, he wants to get Keen fed, he wants to focus on the Rift Herald potentially. You can see he's just running around with Shelly following him around.
It's a full-on rotation here. The rest of Liiv Sandbox is coming, but they're pretty far behind. No teleport available for Fade. I don't know if they're going to make it here in time, Valdez.
Yeah, so this is the thing. If you're Afreeca and if you know it's 4v5, you got to either rush this down or back off. As looks like they may be able to rush this down. A couple eye hits later should get the job done, but now they're just going to get on top of Summit, who does hit the Mega Gnar, and in goes Effort, but Summit's already dead. A big Gnar ultimate, though, is just gigantic for them as they do pick up the kill, and they will get the Rift Herald. Bang is getting solo farm on the bottom side, which is great, but definitely a nice team fight win, at least for Liiv Sandbox to get that objective.
And I think the reason that Jonas Strong is showing us, because I don't think that's worth. That's a 1-for-1 trade. Summit, yes, heroically throwing his life away, saving that team fight. As Croco, gotta be careful, buddy.
Sir? Yeah, I think he's just dead here. No ghosts, no flash, no anything, just dead.
Because that's not worth it. You give up, I think it was 2.5 plates to bang.
Okay,
and
just 3.
in mind, that's even worse.
Yeah.
So, and you trade 1 for 2 in the end. And thus far in the early game, Keen and Dread, bigger than sign. Liiv Sandbox topside, Summit and Croco really meeting their match here. And they take too much focus. I understand what they're trying to do it, right? They're trying to keep them in close proximity so that you can go for an all-out wipe, because if you actually get all these kills here, like they're trying to set up, it might look completely different. However, with the flash from Dread and Keen and the 2 of those surviving, the win that you get is not nearly as valuable as the world LSB. As Croco is, he's just a nice guy, you know. He's just trying to freeze for his top laner. He wants to help him out, but pays for that dearly with his life. The one upside is the kill goes to the hands, but we now see that Afreeca Freecs, they are actually a lot stronger than Liiv Sandbox here in this early game. It's a 2k gold lead. Every skirmish that they have set up, or every trade has gone their way. So Drake would be great here for Liiv Sandbox, because it buys you so much time.
Yeah, and, you know, the Mountain Drake, even on its own, would be very nice for Gnar, Olaf, Leona. Even the Orianna can build some defensive items.
But actually go for it, guys.
Yeah, you know, they're not... they're not going for it. It looks like they want to drop down the Rift Herald tier first, potentially. As Olaf is down on the bottom side, I don't think they're thinking they can just pick up a straight-up kill onto the Tristana. And now here comes Lehens and Dread. They're actually looking for a fight here, as a lot of damage does go down onto the Rel. Lehens has to hop the wall. Ragnarok also popped. Olaf on the run. The Solar Flare comes out just to save his life. And now, as Afreeca, you have effectively zoned away the enemy jungler.
And now the question is how much Summit can get out of this, because he will be able to pick up a couple of free plates on top side. And considering that the teleport was there, I think Liiv Sandbox could have rushed it. I feel like, especially with Kai'Sa, Olaf in the early game, like if they just dog pound to the dragon immediately, they might get away with it, but they're possibly not aware of the back timers of Afreeca, thinking we don't actually have vision, and they play very respectful, which, considering the state of the game, I kind of get. Oh, this is good cheese. Oh, never mind. Not aged long enough. Could have
ended up being a craft single.
Yeah, listen, could have been a finely aged cheddar or Gouda, or Gouda, as you know.
Yes.
I'd like to say.
We might have a dead Croco here once again. No Ragnarok available. Just going to get zapped down. Not before they get the couple of plates at least, but still a nice kill. Go in the way of Afreeca, and they're getting even more plates here. Keen with a push up on the top side, as they're really desperately trying to stack up their early lead. It's almost as if Afreeca know as well that they want to push their early leads as much as possible. As this is just straight up domination up on the top side now, kind of to be expected at this point with the Eclipse stunt.
Honestly, in every lane, with the exception of Fate, who has, as per usual, been just a incredibly stable mainstay for the Liiv Sandbox roster. They're just getting shoved in every lane. And again, you're not supposed to get counterpicked in multiple lanes on red side.
Yeah.
Right? Like, as blue side, that's allowed because you'll get the power picks, but you'll, you know, maybe find some unfavorable matchups. But right now, Liiv Sandbox are in a position where they gave up their early solo laners really early. The Orianna, completely fine, but the Gnar into Keen is somewhat of a sign of disrespect. However, and I hate that I have to say this, Valdez, but I don't believe this game is over until the Nexus has fallen. And I'm not going to call it
fair,
that.
Yeah.
Because we've seen the glimpses of the Liiv Sandbox comp, right? Like in that topside dragon fight, if there's not 3 flash or 2 flashes there, that fight, freebie for Liiv Sandbox. They find the shockwave, they find the hard engage, and all of a sudden it turns around. And I think that's the mindset that Liiv Sandbox have right now, which is also why they didn't go for that Drake earlier on, knowing that the teleport on Keen was available. Just survive. We'll find an opening, just gotta sit tight.
They still have incredible wombo combo in team fights, so at the end of the day, Croco again in a weird spot, but might be okay here. He's not even going to have to pop his Ragnarok, so
I
just walks away.
I would propose that we don't give Dread Lilia anymore when the Hecarim is banned away.
No.
I know. Listen, it's a controversial statement, but I stand by it.
I would tend to agree with you, yeah. That's
really
probably a good
appreciate
idea.
that.
He didn't even go for the Zhonya's first. He's like, nope. As Meganar's about to be hit, here you see Summit is getting on in there. He's able to gnar him into the wall. It's a lot of damage coming out. Hops on in and forces that flash away from Keen, but who's baiting in who? Dread's here, but so is Croco. As now Dread is going to be able to walk away from that one, as it seems that they do spot him. Or maybe they haven't, but still just trying to help push the wave. And they will be able to do just that, at least.
They know something's up.
Oh boy, here we go again. Prince in a really rough spot. Hops in once again, tries to ult for the shield, and also uses his heal, but it is not going to happen. Welcome to Tristana versus Kai'Sa. As once again, we got another fight up on the top side, trying to get the kill on Akeen, but he can't. Looking very desperate at that point. Now Fate has to flash away as he was trying to help out with his own teleport. Lands the bowling ball onto Fate as we could have some more huge burst damage coming out. And that's going to be Fly and Dread putting their heads together to pick up yet another kill. So now we have the supports up on the top side. Does this snowball ever end is the question, as Dread is going to help pick up another kill. Does go the way of Lahens, but now we've got Summit as well, trapped underneath the turret in mini-gnar form. A very easy tank up, and that is 4 kills in a row. I think actually 5, including Prince down on the bottom side.
A moment of silence is all that was necessary there, Valdez, because this is Liiv Sandbox just utterly crumbling. Yes, Afreeca have a strong early game, but I'm starting to feel like Liiv Sandbox, they're just kind of getting in their own head. They're making incredibly desperate plays. The fact that Croco runs through that, trying to trade his life 1-for-1 in the situation where it doesn't get you anything, right? Going in again and again and again. Everyone on Liiv Sandbox looking for these kills. Prince for the second time disrespecting, getting bang more and more fed. And this is such a hard game to cast. Because if you just come in and you see this, you're like, this is free for Afreeca, right? But we've seen every single match this split, and we've seen teams be in this position before. And still, you're scared to call it here, which normally shouldn't be the case because Afreeca's playing this super well, right? Like, they're pushing their leads, bang, knowing the limits of his champion, knowing how well that Tristana works into that Kai'Sa, has been working out great. Despite the cheese that was found by Summit here early on the top side, Croco just, yeah, like I said, that's tail.
He missed the first undertow.
Otherwise he could have killed him.
Yeah.
And it would have been a 1-for-1 trade, which I still don't agree with. And yeah, well then Dread just, that is.
And Effort's like, here, take me too.
Yeah, and like I kind of get it, right? Because as Effort, you're like, maybe with Summit, with CC, we can like do something. Summit plays it as well as you mechanically can, and this is legitimately, this is the story of this game, right? Like Summit almost finds a solo kill, he gets the flash out of Jace, but then the rest of his team just crumbles under the pressure. And Liiv Sandbox, I feel like you have hit your item spike on Orianna as well. Get one item everyone, just start grouping and see what you can do, because you have a Tristana with a 2k gold lead, and as a whole the map is quickly slipping away with you. This Cloud Soul is a little bit of like good news, I guess. Question mark.
I suppose so. Although Afreeca now with the 2 first Drakes should be able to take that pretty easily, and I mean your comp can use a bit of that as well. Close in really nicely after landing some ultimates as well. They're gonna get the second Rift Herald for free. And this is really the test for Afreeca as well. You know, you've got another early game lead. How about this time? Is this the game where you make it happen? And they did recently take a win in a game over T1. So they have proven that at least they can make it happen from time to time, even against great teams.
You know who Afreeca is? They're a team that's like the bad boy in the movies, and you know you shouldn't trust them because they're gonna break your heart, but maybe this time they've changed. You know, maybe you've changed them. And legitimately it's possible, because the reason why I've been such a fan of Afreeca since the beginning of the split is because this early game has, not to this extent, but generally has been there throughout the entirety of this season. And that's why it's so heartbreaking to see them basically beat themselves every single time, because they get these leads, and look at how well they pushed them consistently. They have all the Drakes. They got the, they missed out on one Herald, but got the other one, which was the important one, and they traded really well macro-wise. And still, we're holding our breaths, right? We're hesitant to call this one, but don't forget, if Liiv Sandbox don't get this 2-0, all of a sudden, playoffs not in their hands anymore.
Yeah. Again, Liiv Sandbox, if they get 2-2-0s, then, and only then, do they 100% make it to playoffs no matter what KT and Noxian do. If they win 2-1, then it gets interesting, right? There are other scenarios. We could have three-way ties and all sorts of fun stuff like that. Again, Noxian still have the best chance just because of their final matchup. It is going to be against Fred Brion, whereas Liiv Sandbox have to play against DRX, which is arguably a stronger matchup. And of course, KT have Tom on Kia. And the push is coming in here big. Afreeca really trying to push their edge here from the early game. That is a really nice solar flare. Are we going in is a question. Huge wombo combo comes in, and they get the damage done that they needed to, although Kroko is going to die. And this is a massive ultimate coming in now from Kroko, and Bang is just going to clean up everybody. I said Kroko, I meant Dread. He gets a huge play here, as now Bang is just going to clean up everybody, and Afreeca are able to turn it around.
And that's why we're hesitant to call this one over, because Liiv Sandbox almost find the angle, they almost find the turnaround with a really good team fight. But then Dread, unbelievable what he was able to do there on the Lilia. He's been involved with so many of these kills throughout the entirety of this game, and if he doesn't find that sleep, that fight is over. You lose that fight, you fall into the same old trap, your mental's broken, and you might lose this game. Instead, they take the fight, Bang gets even more fed, doesn't give up a shutdown, and all of a sudden, I'm starting to believe again, Valdez.
Yeah, Neffert sets it up nicely. It's looking really, you know, straightforward, but then watch Dread here.
Oh my god. You see the core, like Bang knows the moment that happens, he goes in, Prince blows up to the side. With that, I think that final order wasn't even necessary. Another key thing there is, I think Bang has received a lot of criticism over this split, specifically because he's been in fed positions before, but then he's not able to play it out. This time though, the moment that Gnar comes in, immediate buster shot away. He sees the opportunity to go for the kill once that sleep comes through. And if they're able to keep this up, I think we might see Afreeca take it. Again, in a normal situation, this one should be oh boy. Listen.
Oh, I didn't do the anti-curse for the second series.
You didn't do it.
I only did it for the first one.
This is on you.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry, guys. It's my fault. Who's the one that caught me out here? Who's the player? Looks like it's Fly.
I don't know, man.
He's got a little smirk on his face. Everybody's laughing over here. It's definitely Fly, as nobody over here is laughing.
No.
Not a very happy situation.
And it's easy to look at Liiv Sandbox and go like, hey, you know, what are we doing? Why are we having such a rough time? But don't forget, for Liiv Sandbox, they've had a really rough split. Imagine being able to keep your playoff chances in your own hands, and you know you're playing up against a team which stylistically is a weirdly bad matchup for you, just because you're relying on the early game, and you have a better early game than most LCK teams. But Afreeca is like a more extreme version of Liiv Sandbox, where their early game is even better, but then the transitions previously were a problem. However, I feel like we're getting to the point where this lead is so big that Afreeca should have control of this.
Yeah. And we did get word that, of course, Fly is having a visual bug. Apparently, when he tried to upgrade his skill, it didn't disappear, even though he did upgrade his skill. So that's something we've had before. I don't think it should be too long of this. Oh, did I do it?
I don't.
Did I say it?
You just did it.
Oh, no.
Valdez,
Did they take down that thing behind them on the wall that said no blaming your teammates?
Maybe? I think
they used to have that thing up on the wall.
I know. I think they might have.
So now they can blame their teammates. Okay.
Naturally. Maybe that was the problem all along. They didn't blame each other enough. That's how good teamwork works, right?
They just had to criticize one of their teammates and fix his play. That's the way it works.
That's what works in solo queue.
That's apparently what most people think.
Yeah. You want to talk about it?
No.
No, Not at all.
You can just check out my Twitter. I've talked about it a lot, actually.
Yeah.
In the past.
Does he have a... He's a light on his microphone as well. That's cool. I don't think I've ever noticed that before. You know, it's the little
It's kind of like that fish where they have the thing that hangs in front of their mouth. So yeah, it attracts the prey directly in front of the mouth so he can gobble it up. Same with Lehens.
Okay. I don't know if I like the implications of that.
I mean, that's how you play support.
Listen, but you're really focused, right? Like in the zone, you're gaming, and then your mouth, you know, just opens a little bit because you're like so focused on the game. I used to have that, and then suddenly your fly goes in, and not like you don't want that. That's not. I don't see the logic. I don't like it, fellas.
Yeah, maybe the light is a little bit counterintuitive to what you would want as a gamer. But Lehens thinks differently, apparently.
I feel like
he was like the only one that had that, right?
I feel like there's nothing but like confusion and bad jokes down the anglerfish line.
Yes.
I'm glad we were able to reach that.
That's why we slowly but surely
descend into madness.
No, slowly walked away from the anglerfish. As it looks like the game's live. I see someone's playing there in the background. Okay, there we go. We're back in the game. As I believe that was Krako. He was killing the wolves. Really?
Doesn't even get it. Oh, that's a tilt.
See the enemy jungler, like you're not gonna outsmite the enemy jungler with your shockwave.
Yeah, you say that, but I saw
Most of the
BDD
time.
do it, okay? With Paddlestar.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Paddlestar is a little bit different.
No. No.
Well.
Oh my god. I mean, it's also like not an ultimate, which I think is great. And this is, if you needed a signal that says Liiv Sandbox is not planning to play the game for like the next 5 minutes, that was it. That wasn't the shockwave. That was a signal to everyone that Liiv Sandbox, they're going to turtle. And can't blame him, because I think that's your only win condition here. Turtle up. Hope you can find another one of those team fights. Hope you can, you know, maybe get rid of Dread this time before he Lily has all over you and find your way back into this game.
He has his 3 items already.
Yeah,
Stopwatch is Zhonya's. They're one and the same. And he's got that for now. So, you know, with the double mask and the Zhonya's, the stopwatch in this case, he can basically do everything he needs to do in these team fights. And he's also got the Predator, so he's going to have perfect positioning, most likely, for any kind of team fight that happens, as Jonah Strong is pointing out the jungle level difference, 3 levels right now. Krako not having a very fun game. This is kind of what happens when you're Olaf from behind.
I don't know how I would feel if all it took for Afreeca to like become the team I know they could be was to get knocked out of playoffs. That would make me very sad.
Sometimes when there's no pressure, you play the best. And that can be said for many games, many scenarios.
That's true.
We've seen it a lot as well. And yeah, I mean, it does feel unfortunate, but at the same time, they could potentially avoid the 10th place. So they're still fighting for that at least in Afreeca's stance. Oh, okay, you guys got to clear the ward. Lehens is like, I'm not taking the gold.
Oh, they have a flank there. Oh, fly.
Oh, they could take... I don't know, though. Okay, so they should see them doing the Baron here. They have that ward. That C-Bang here, the knock-up. And yeah, there goes the Baron. Okay. Teleport committed to, and that's Mininar. So as Liiv Sandbox, I think you're running here, actually. You're not actually trying to fight this, yes. Run away. Afreeca take the Baron for free. And they actually get some bonus stuff, such as Ghost, Effort's Flash, and also Summit's TP.
There's a reason why we leave the DRX brushes to DRX. It's because you actually need to execute on it. And there, I think they were a little bit hesitant to pull the trigger on Fly, which makes sense, because what happens? You shockwave, he flashes, they know you're there, they collapse on you and you lose. The only way that works is like if Fly gets close to the brush, and then I guess you kill them. And then you can try and go from there, but it's a level 16 Victor with a stopwatch and a flash and a cosmic drive all available. I'm hesitant to say it, Valdez, but I'm starting to feel like this has become an insurmountable lead for Afreeca Freecs.
Yeah, it does feel that way. As we do have the teleport, though, coming in. They have secured the kill onto Keen, and now Dread is in a really awkward spot. He does have Flash, though.
I should not
be
talk.
using that. Yeah, nicely done, Chronicler. That was very excellently cursed.
There's no way that, like, in 26 minutes of gameplay, the one time I say something positive about a free... I don't... Come on.
It's a thing.
Come on, man.
It's definitely a thing. Afreeca, they're still fine, right?
They're still completely fine.
Still got the push. They're probably still going to take this game. That's the way this goes. Okay, Bang. Yeah, he, he really just wanted to kill this turret as fast as possible.
Clear. Respect that.
Yeah.
Fate's nowhere near is shoving the turret into the tower, but I think they can just end there if they're not careful. They need this Orianna to be here. Teleport coming through.
Fate is coming in. They're kiting down Lehens. He is going to have to flash away, and there we go. Bowling ball lands, and that is a big sleep picked up, and Effort will just die as they do take the Rel away. But at this point, Afreeca, with the Baron buff, they're taking down the whole base. 2 inhibitors down already. And will they go for the end is the real question. They've got a level 16 Tristana, but not going to push the issue. They're going to play it safe. And that's probably for the best here if you are Afreeca.
Yeah. This one is on me, everyone. I'm very sorry. Unironically, though, what we see there is an attempt to push into side lanes, make use of the Baron pressure, which is understandable, but with the lack of vision, I think the teleport play would have been as big a problem for you there. Dread, yet again, look at the amount of damage this man does. That's I think one more Rolling Ball. Yeah, look at that. And there's just like a quarter of Prince's health immediately gone, and Dread has been the definitive carry here. But Banger has been making a case for himself as well. Now is the GA available, so he can jump forward with impunity. The Soul is 100% going to go to Afreeca. No way that Liiv Sandbox can make that work. And Liiv Sandbox, the only thing that wins you this game right now, or even not even win, that's way too generous, that keeps you in this game is the perfect 100-0 wombo combo. Meganar into Orianna ultimate can be set up by Effort, can be set up by Summit finding a flank. That's what you need. If you don't find that, you will not win a team fight. The deficit is too big. And Afreeca, it looks like they might be playing spoiler here for Liiv Sandbox, who are desperately trying to keep their control of their own fate.
Yeah, Afreeca looking pretty good. Start off today. Looking to close this one out. They only have 1 inhibitor left down on the bottom side. The poke is really insane from the side of Afreeca at this point in time. Jace, the Lilia, the Victor. Prince is going to have to come up to the top side, take down the wave. And that should make this push a little bit easier down here in the bottom lane for Afreeca.
It's a double stack super minion that you need to take care of. Can't really let that one just run amok. And your top side, that poke, you mentioned it already. Afreeca Freecs making great use of that. Fly at this point also having disgustingly strong poke. 1 or 2 orders from Bang also constitutes a necessitated back. This might be the Hail Mary hold here for Liiv Sandbox.
Afreeca, they're looking to close this one out as the inhibitor will go down. Gotta wait for these super minions to push in as the poke is enough. I feel like as Afreeca you could just literally stand here and just poke him out. And that should be good enough. I mean, the Chaos Storm going to push Fate back. Summit looking for it. They're trying to find Bang, but he's able to get on out. And that's going to be the end of Effort. And it looks like the end of Liiv Sandbox. Summit not going to be able to survive on this one. Bang just taking names at the end of this game as he picks up the double kill. And Afreeca will play a bit of spoiler here as they will take game number 1 away from Liiv Sandbox as Dre is going to die. And the Nexus does go down as they